Where could we possibly be? Just where, oh where could we possibly be in the adventure that is Search and Rescue? Is it fixed? Well, we've seen that we've unlocked some things. We have gone into the specialization of Medevac. We have been making 35,000 credits per mission doing that. We've even earned 1.4 million XP points per mission for those, and I even went ahead and got the S rating in the Chinook for the cargo transport hook missions. And in the thumbnail we saw a ridiculous amount of search and rescue missions finally revealed. That screenshot was taken earlier today. I'm back in the sim later in the day. This is the same exact location, and once again gone. I don't understand how these keep appearing and reappearing. And it's one of the most frustrating things I come home to after a long day of work, to be frank. I was looking forward to getting into many missions this evening with everyone, showing the variety that had been put into place around the planet, because each one of these hot spots earlier today, and this is the second time this has happened to me now, all of these were there, and once again we have our same missions that keep repeating. Those are the ones that are available every single time. And on top of that, I just don't understand why we have the 14 specializations unlocked, 16 certifications. Our rotorcraft capabilities are endless at this point. I could even go to Search and Rescue, hoist back to the headquarters, go into the missions, and expect to see those. That is how this should be operating. I would say that that should be a filter in that menu. Yet every time we go in and out of this process, we come back to a clean slate. I am wondering how long it is going to take such a ridiculously redundant bug in the system. While discussing this, I also want to go over a little something that I've discovered while doing these missions in this specific aircraft, the Pilatus PC-12NGX. First of all, it's a 6.5 hour long mission. It is a twin-engine Learjet. It is normally a pretty fantastic aircraft, but you are stuck not being able to operate one of the engines. Extremely difficult to do anything with it once that becomes apparent. These missions, however, are earning us the most amount of money, and they've also even been triggering those search and rescue missions. We do have some of these that we've done before. This one, the last time I played this mission, was in a different location. But as you can see, once we come out from the clouds, where this mission is today, I am truly befuddled at what I'm seeing right now. It seems to be in the exact location that it was before. So it moved for a day, and now it seems to be right back to where it was. I'm at a loss. This is the second time this has happened to me where I get them populated on the planet. Specifically, the majority of them are here. Even in the thumbnail, you can see just how many of these search and rescues were there when I took that screenshot. It was today. The Cessna Grand Caravan also has some issues with these missions as well. I have come across some engine failures, and even though you're able to correct the failure in air and continue on with your flight, it doesn't let you regain control of the aircraft, and it winds up just slowly bringing you down to the ground, and you had best be in a spot where you can land when that happens. So I'm not just seeing the bug of the amazingly disappearing search and rescue missions from around the world. More and more of what's uncovered is even still just further and further bugged. The de Havilland on these missions is actually quite nice to fly. If you're used to flying those tail draggers and you have that certification, those are a little something to do outside of the norm to make some money. But I just don't understand why we keep getting these same repetitive missions over and over and over again. So once again, live, we are going to try to trigger more of these missions by doing things we've done in the past all over again. Hopefully these don't take long, because we've all been here before. We've seen these missions. It's quite redundant. But at the same time, while we do this, we want to discuss what happened last night to our guy Kane. Number 5400. We were finally able to get into a free flight together last night. Absolutely super cool. You might know him from the chat and comments section as Avalock Emery's, but we had a great time with him last night. Flying over the Amazon, chilling out over the boats. The two of us had a really good time. SOS Death Pilot says, nice helicopter missions. Yes, they are pretty great when they happen. Right now, just kind of getting these repetitive missions over and over again. I will unlock close to 30 of them in the hotspots, and if I log out of the sim for a while and come back, they disappear. Is that happening to you too? Because it's actually happened to me twice now, not just once. Get the old bird fired up and go back to the same old spot we've been to time and time again, because why not? Starting to really enjoy this H-125. It is a pleasure to fly. We're going to get our ground team on board. Oh, these missions. How many times must we do the same missions? Can't forget that landing light. I always had a tendency to do that. While we get spooled up here, I'd like to see some of the debris coming out from underneath the aircraft. Getting the clearance for taxi. And I'm hoping they don't have me going to the other end of the runway before we actually launch into this mission, because that is, again, one of the most annoying things we've put into Microsoft Flight Sim 2024 when it comes to these helicopter missions. It does want me to enter the runway. Just gonna give me the climb out. I can get down with that. If you haven't noticed, you also really need to pay attention to your direction of travel when you're coming back from these missions, because it's going to ask you to end at a specific runway. And if you come in the opposite direction, you're going to get tagged for that. SOS Death Pilot just downloaded the game and bought a HOTAS 1 to play the game. It will be in Monday, so we'll begin playing. Absolutely fantastic. You are going to love this thing. It is a ridiculous amount of fun. Because I know ATC is going to try to ding me on these clouds. I'm going to try to get above these before I actually get to the Survivor. Looks like I might have to go through just a little small one. Let's see what happens. I came in just on the cusp. And even though the Coast Guard would fly through something that thin without even thinking about it, every once in a while, Microsoft Flight Sim 2024 will give you a little bit of an infraction with your ATC for flying through a cloud. So I've learned to avoid that whenever possible. This H-125 that we're doing these search and rescue missions in is not a trimmable aircraft. So there is no working trim on purpose. This variant of the H-125 doesn't have an SAS system in it. However, it is a highly maneuverable aircraft, and once all of your bindings and key mappings are right and you have your sensitivities dialed in, it's actually quite the pleasure to fly. She gets some speed to her every once in a while. We'll see if we wind up in the same spot. If I can even find it again. If I'm not mistaken, it's over the ridge. The EFB right here that you see on the iPad is something that comes in real handy for these. You can go in looping patterns all the way around this if you don't already know where the Survivor is located on the map, and that helps to trigger the location of your Survivor. I've got a bunch of tips and tricks videos out there. We've been doing this since the day 2024 was launched. Thanks for stopping by, SOS Death Pilot. Good to see you, man. Hope you enjoy the content. Hope you enjoy the simulator. If you have any questions at all, feel free to reach out. The individual that I was talking about earlier, Avalok Emrys, or known in Sim as Kane V number 5400, we got into a bunch of issues basically together throughout our streaming history here, and we've had to download the simulator multiple times in order to get fresh data from Microsoft. He's had to go all the way into his computer's BIOS to manage a bunch of the drivers, even on the motherboard, to get his system working. It's been a process. So if you run into anything, more than likely we're going to have some helpful hints here within these videos for you to help you through the process. If you don't run into any issues, let us know. We're curious. I am a part of the Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 forums as well, and we report the bugs that we see in Sim on those forums, and it is always helpful to vote on those topics as well, so we can get those pushed closer to the top of the line. You are welcome, sir. If you don't have computer settings that are through the roof, I am only on a 2080 Ti graphics card. The other assets in my system are a little bit beefy, like 128 gigabytes of RAM and a 32-thread card. Chipset is good. RAM is good, but this is only a 2080 Ti GeForce RTX. And I'm able to push some pretty good graphics through this thing, and have been since we got in touch with another guy that we know and really appreciate. His name is Air Boss Man. There's a video out there of mine with a thumbnail about butter smooth graphics for my 2080 Ti, where I've got links to his information, channel, and video. And he works with a DLSS hack that has made these graphics what they are today. And it even helps the way that the simulator feels when your system is properly using the deep learning that it's capable of. He's got a way that you can go into what I think was a config file in Microsoft Flight Sims folders, change one number from a 1 to a 2, reload the sim, mess around with the DLSS settings. Mine is right now on performance. When I'm not streaming, I can put that on to either ultra performance or quality, and I'm still getting some really nice looking images out of the simulator. Absolutely great recommendation right there. Shout out here, boss man. What's interesting so far is that I'm not finding the survivor anywhere near where I have found them in the past. So even though the area itself is identical, the place, or places I should say, where I've found this survivor no longer contain the survivor. So they're changing. The hardest helicopter to fly so far, and I honestly can't believe that I was able to achieve the S rating in the Chinook, but I've got the proof. I did it in a Chinook of all things, not even the 125, because I crashed that Chinook during that mission. Yeah, that's right. I think it even does it even say it in the bottom of that corner there? Where's that little thumbnail again? No, it didn't even recognize it. Interesting. Yeah, but that was a crash. I admit it. The system said I was happy with the flight anyway. And that was one I thought was going to take a very long time to get because of where some of those missions were being put on the planet. Deep in the woods, having to bury the helicopter into the trees. Very challenging flying. Is there anybody out there? Where are they? They gotta be out there. So one other time, they were pretty close to this edge here as well, so I'm just gonna take a little sweep up this side, right on the other side of this little ridge right here. Looks like a no joy today. There's nothing short of amazing about what they've done to the biomes in this version of the simulator. What an amazing difference. I have expanded my airline on top of it. I do have the search and rescue as a part of my companies at this point. I haven't bought any aircraft yet. Or I should say, this time around, because I have had to start that career mode all over again. very early on in this, I wound up going dead broke. Almost $1 million in the hole within 3 days from buying the premium insurance. A little prematurely, I might say. The bug in that system was pretty violent. Took away everything I had earned to the point where it was no longer really even feasible to consider trying to recoup that money. It took less time for me to get back to where I am now than it was to recoup $1 million. I have more certifications. I'm at a higher pilot level. I am using a computer. I'm on a PC that I personally built myself. The controllers that I'm using are a Thrustmaster T16000M with the rudder pedals. I can get a much different experience out of the simulator when I'm not streaming. Because of course, as you know, this is a thin client simulator, so all of this information is being streamed to me. So to keep my bandwidth appropriate to do both of these things simultaneously, I have reduced graphics to a degree. I'm still on high for some things. My pre-cache is still on ultra, but I am getting some really good results out of it. Well, I've been over this spot, but let's see if she's in here again. I think this is the spot where she kind of tucked down in here. There should be a lake right on the other side of this hill. Sometimes we've seen smoke pop at this point. This was a very, very tight spot to find her, but as you can see now, it's saying that I'm actually out of the search area. So this is where that survivor used to be. Alright, that's the spot that we're familiar with this location. So now we've got something absolutely different in play here, and this is, again, you know, that same bubble. But I have smoke just off of my 11 o'clock. Put the EFB away. And we're going to come into the cockpit and wait till we get a little bit closer before we actually use intercom to tell the base that we've found the target. So kind of going around these circles once or twice is pretty important. I think the first pass they might hear the helicopter come over, and the second pass is when they pop their smoke. It's been different a lot of times though. You'll get something different almost every single time you come in. Almost. Now there are some issues with the helicopter turning into a little bit of a toboggan when you're making these landings. Even though we don't have any snow cover on the ground here, I'm going to try to pick and choose my landing here pretty well. Not sure if you can see it just yet, but the survivor also has a handheld mirror in their hands that they're flashing into the sun, so we can identify them that way as well. Some survivors only have that mirror and do not pop smoke. We can call it in that we found them. I might just park up at the top of the ridge and walk down. Or I might try a tow-in landing. What we know about these search and rescue missions is that it goes to a cutscene, and you lose control of your aircraft during the cutscene. So it's become a little bit interesting trying to get these people off of the ground sometimes. As you can see, this helicopter is not equipped with a hoist, so I have to touch down in order to retrieve this target. I think I might go up to the ridge and try to walk. I don't know. This is one of those calls, you know? Let's try a one skid landing here instead. I think we'll be able to make this work. I'm just going to keep this in a hover right here and try to manage my power. So if I take my hands off the controls, it's in a relative hover. And at that point, I'll be able to complete this one skid towed in rescue. And that becomes something that you just really need to practice. Those tow-in landings are all about good key bindings, good sensitivities on your controllers, and a balance between your collective and your cyclic. Super, super fun. No matter how many times I do these missions, man, even if they repeat, this stuff is just so much fun. And it's in the base simulator now, which is just amazing. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate the compliment. Again, that maneuver takes some serious practice. Those rescue missions get even harder when you put the hoist into play and you're over the water in 27 knot winds. Can connect with ATC and let them know that we are about to arrive. Let them know what our position is. Bring it down. I do want to check my EFB while I'm thinking about it to make sure that I am coming into the right runway like I had suggested earlier. Go into your EFB on the top and look at your flight plan and see which runway you're expected to be at. And I am at runway 14. Current heading is about 31. So that would be the runway in the opposite direction from which I'm flying. And we'll see what if their graphics actually have the right pattern or if it's reversed. I have found that to be the case on several occasions as well. It looks like they got us coming in the right way this time. Coming into the traffic pattern, you can turn these visual aids on and off if you choose. Sneaking underneath the clouds. Key bindings with this simulator are also extremely important. You're going to find out that when you're mapping some of your buttons, it's mapped to multiple things, right? So you'll have one button that is actually capable of doing multiple things. Like your flaps will wind up to be something like a zoom or something in another instance of the simulator. Something else that you're capable of doing might be also mapped to that button, and those can be overlapped by default. So making sure that you have all of your key mappings the way you want before you get in the air is absolutely essential to being able to control these aircraft at all. Great scenery. I absolutely love it. I thought we had some sheep on the road right here. They're just rocks. Yes, I know I'm below my final, but I am making my approach. Shift A will open this up so I can announce a final because it has not asked me to. I'm going to make sure that I do anyway. Now that I'm trying to do too many things at once, I lose control of the helicopter. There we go. Let's put that camera back here. And I try to line up with this gas pump on the left. I know that that portion of this airfield is considered runway. And we'll just bring that in right here for an approach. Spin that partner route and run. And we're going to come over to our hold short. Collect some money for this. Probably a really nice rating. This is by far what I would consider to be an S, although it did take us a little while to get to our survivor. Everything did go without a hitch. Only a hoist and a winch. Clearance to taxi. This will never get old, man. Look at this scenery. It's almost hard to pay attention to flying sometimes. Ground effect in some of these areas does get a little bit overkill. And I like to do the quick and dirty startups and stops. Doesn't really hurt you if you do. Because right now, I mean, in a helicopter, you would wait for this blade to slow down pretty considerably before you decided to throw on your rotor brake. But that's what they want, so that's what I'm going to do. See what our patient's up to. Nice job, good sir. Nice job. Always a good time. Fully expecting the S. 85 on localization point. That's actually, that's a surprise right there. The S rating it is 270, 319 XP. It's not too bad. But again, when you could pull a million XP points out of those fixed wings missions and pull 35,000 credits per mission instead of 48, to earn the money to buy the aircraft, I think it's almost mandatory to stick towards the fixed wing side of this. Level 114, I have improved exponentially, sitting at 223,700 credits overall, and this is what my career tree currently looks like. Almost everything on both sides is done. I probably won't get the powered lift rating. I don't really see it being something that I want to delve into, but I may go about the jet airline transport pilot rating as well as the heavy airliner rating, because these have got to make buku bucks. Crusty SVK, I appreciate that compliment, man. It's extremely frustrating, don't get me wrong, but I have hope for this thing so much. It's so exciting to see what they have done to this, and the sandbox is ours to play in. I'm thrilled with it. I'm absolutely thrilled with it. It's been an incredible journey up to this point, but I am all in. I've got all of the specializations for rotorcraft checked off and in the green. We are well on our way. Airplanes, on the other hand, we're getting there. Haven't touched the aerial advertising yet. I think score flight seeing or skydiving aviation missions with a B. I only need 2 more of those. Okay. Alrighty then. The skydiving missions are super fun. But these medevac missions, I am experiencing some issues in this plane specifically. The Pilatus PC-24, we get one engine that doesn't work, so I just avoid those missions. But those make me the most money. I generally try to stay in the Grand Caravan for those, or even the Beechcraft King Air is okay, but I prefer the Caravan. Great way to make money. Let's see if we've unlocked more of the search and rescue missions, or if we're left doing something else to make money in the meantime. We got Geehee Landing Ground taken care of out here in Australia. Nothing else really going on. Yep, nothing unlocked as of yet. Even though they were there earlier today, they're gone. But that's alright. There's other things we can be doing to earn money. The VIP flights are pretty interesting as well. The most interesting thing I think I've seen about these fixed-wing medevac missions is when you get diverted on these 6.5-hour long flights and you're only 20 minutes into the flight and all of a sudden you get the paramedic in the back of the plane saying that there's an emergency, whatever the text was, but you get diverted and you have to go to a different airport. You have to log that new airport into your your airplane's flight management system. I appreciate the subscription, Krusty SVK. Thank you very much. That is absolutely fantastic. I appreciate you very, very much. Thank you. Great to have you on board, my friend. I've been here since day one, and I'm going to be here until 2028 comes out. And then I'll start streaming 2028 too, because I am addicted to what these guys are doing with our hobby. These missions are good though, because that 6.5-hour long mission might not take that long. The one where I got diverted, it was a 45-minute mission. It was super easy to do. It didn't take long, and it didn't diminish the amount of money that I made. All right, the earnings were still the same. I completed the mission per their prerequisite, and it did not reduce the funds I made. Using the sim rate increase, sim rate decrease in those is also something that I've learned is helpful when used in moderation. And these little guys right here, these agricultural missions, I actually want to do one of these because it's just so much fun. A lot of the times what you see with these though is the refill truck will be buried pretty close to some trees or crooked. And it just increases the level of the challenge. Like, okay, can I really get this done, or am I trying another mission? Super fun, though. And again, not a bad little set of stuff going on here, right? You're earning over 1 million XP points if you could pull it off. It's only 15 nautical miles away. Probably only going to earn around 6K for it, but in the meantime, I don't care, man. I just don't. It's fun to fly. We do free flights every once in a while. We got one of our guys, follower of mine that's been around literally since day one. Kane V, number 5400, and I met up last night in the Amazon. Did a little free flight there for a while. Had a really good time flying around the boats in the river, and that was his first time being able to be involved in one of those free flight fly-ins because of all the bugs and everything he had on his system, and it was just an absolutely fantastic moment for both of us. Super, super cool to see the tenacity paying off. And man, when he got into that helicopter and he saw me and I saw him, he just started whipping around in a pattern over the airport. Super, super fun to see. He just stuck with it, you know? That's what it's all about, man. Yeah, we can get down on it, but at the same time, I'm up for it. I love it. Loving every minute of it. Let's get the old H-125 fired up again. One more time, quick and dirty. We'll go with the batteries, the gens, the anti-collision, a horn. Again, I do these real quick and dirty. You could do more. You could do less. You could even do the, Control E to get it through. Do what you got to do. Check out that EFB and that flight plan. We'll recenter ourselves right here. Too bad. We got the rotor spinning. We got the call to put staff in the plane. Let's make sure we got these menus visible here. Put this one up here. We'll shift A just in case we miss something with ATC. We'll get those up and out of the way, but available if needed. Turn that landing light on. Try to avoid any of those infringements if we can. Quick reply to announce the taxi. Don't need to crew. We could just announce a taxi. What am I thinking I need a crew for? Let's twist the grip. These are great too because you need to be low and relatively slow. They're expecting a 50 knot pass. Pretty low to the ground as you're doing this. And again, this is just a way to earn money on the side while those search and rescue missions repopulate. And every once in a while, you'll get lucky and you'll just come back out of one of these missions and there's 30 of them. Alright, my quick reply is not functioning at this point, so we're going to go ahead and just do a quick escape. Go into my settings, controls, and this is where you get to see the HOTAS that I'm using. Pictured over on the right is the description. This is the Thrustmaster T16000M. And I like to put mine over here on one of these buttons right here. See, not mapped. Alright, so we're going to go with quick reply. There. Go ahead, save, resume. Quick reply is working.
Yankee traffic SAR, Heli 241 Sierra Alpha Charlie Tree 914 is taxiing to runway 14.
And the more and more I fly this 125, the better it feels. Pretty stable airframe once you can get your sensitivities where they need to be. Entering runway 14. Flying at 1400. See the smoke coming out of the stack in the background there on the left. I mean, what they're doing with these graphics right now is nothing short of incredible. There's our 1400. Fly out to that fuel truck.
So this should be a good day.
Now, even though I could make a hard left right now and just go directly there, I'm going to try to get the highest score that I possibly can just to keep that income as high as possible. Try to follow that magenta line on your EFD as close as you can. And you can actually do without the visual assistance on if you're just using your EFD and your instruments. The smoke is incredible. So what you're also going to see is within all of their pre-launch, what they had was this simulation of the choppers kind of floating in the smoke, right? And they would be able to push this orange smoke around with the rotor. And that is a fact. It wasn't working originally, but now when we're out over the water doing the search and rescue hoist missions out of the rafts, once you're in a 30-foot hover over that raft, the smoke does not turn off like it does in some other instances. And your rotor wash actually affects that smoke as if it would in real life. Should we try to see what it looks like? I'll divert. I'll take the hit for the team. Let's play a little. I've even got a nuclear power plant coming into play right here. I love it. I love getting distracted because this game, it's so easy to get distracted. We can play in all of them. It'll be interesting to see because I haven't seen the smoke react out of these just yet, especially the nuclear plant. This is the first nuclear power plant that I've come across. What a great looking model too. Oh, I might be putting my little tail into it though. Really hard to see. I don't think the smoke is thick enough for me to distinguish whether or not it's being put into any reaction to my rotor wash. Do I use any assists? Yes, I do. While they are working out these bugs, I have those cyclic and collective. I have all of them on, rudders, you name it. Absolutely. I want to be able to enjoy the flight, and sometimes the flight models are just a little too loose. So yeah, I will absolutely do that. Yep. No shame in my game. It certainly still makes for a very challenging experience, even with those assists on. Yeah, I would have to say that it looks like I am impacting that smoke quite a bit, because now it's coming out behind me. I don't know if that's coming through in the stream or not, but it is pushing the smoke behind me. And the smoke over the top of the tower itself is pretty thinned out. Now when I pull away from it, you're going to see it rise back up, and I'm not affecting it anymore. Pretty amazing. Nothing short of amazing. Little power line action in there. Let's get back into our EFB and figure out where we're supposed to be. As I'm telling everyone, follow the magenta line. It's pretty great. No bother at all, Krusty. Ask me as many questions as you want. I enjoy the interaction with you guys. You know, a lot of times I feel like I'm just sitting in this room talking to myself, so it's my pleasure. It's actually kind of surreal how many subscribers I have at this point. I did not expect to be at the 100 subscriber point so soon in this process. You know, the simulator was actually launched on the 19th of November. That's inside of a month. I'm quite shocked, but at the same time, I don't see a lot of helicopter channels out there. I think everything is really geared towards the fixed wing side of things, so I appreciate the subscription and your presence. It's good to see. Great to have you here. I enjoy every last minute of it. Still got my landing light on though. Alright, we should be coming across our field here pretty soon. I would like to take this aircraft through a bird bath though. The windshield has got some pretty good sized little chunks of stuff on it. At least the bird dropping isn't in the upper right hand corner of the windshield today. Or is it? Nope, that's gone. They get pretty detailed sometimes with these. You build RC helicopters and drones. Keep up the good work. I most certainly will, my friend. I have an RC helicopter of my own. I've got a Raptor. And I have a DJI Inspire 1 drone. So we have quite a bit in common. I appreciate the subscription, my friend. Thank you so much. Like-minded people, my man. Like-minded people. Loving every minute of it. I've been around remote controlled aircraft since I was a kid. My grandfather was the one that introduced me to that. I still have his hand-built biplane. He did not use a blueprint to build it. He actually was an engineer and he designed his own biplane. And I have that hanging in a spare room in my home. It's near and dear to my heart and always has been and it always will be. So again, I think our truck should be in the woods right on that road. Yeah, it's gonna be in the trees. There it is. This should be good. I don't know if this one's gonna be possible. Well, we know in 2020 they like to put a lot of trees on the road, but we've been doing better with that, so we'll see. She's tucked in there pretty good, though. I don't know. It's directly under a tree. I feel like there should be different music on right now. A lot of ground effect coming into play when you get into the treetops. Definitely. And I mean, I think it might be possible, but man, that's going to be rough. Definitely restarted there. Oh, you know what? I didn't even reply for the announcement there. We might want to do that before we land. All right, she's tucked in here. All right. I love the fist bump, brother. Good stuff. Right back at you. Hope to see you guys in the free flights too. We're going to do those pretty often. Just fly around different parts of the world, bring whatever aircraft you want to. I like to stay in the helicopters, but you know, hey, you do you, boo. Oh, I don't think that one's going to be possible. That's not going to be possible. We got the play in the smoke. It's good. We're going to go right back all the way to the main menu. Choose another mission. All right? Why sit around and complain about it when you could just move on? Didn't seem to take a negative impact to anything. We're right back where we started, right? Like it never happened. Let's see what the cargo missions are up to. These don't earn a too bad. Well, yeah, 3,800. It is in the 125 though. That's not a bad deal. What's the location like? Sometimes you'll find these in a bunch of trees. Now there's a possibility that they're going to want me to put the load down on that house. These are fun though. The variety is the spice of life. Yeah, a lot of these missions are pretty hard. I find these hook transport missions to be some of the most difficult just because of the view that you have to get into, and then when you're picking up or dropping off your package, and you'll see it, you can see here in this loading screen it's got the hook underneath and it's got that 4 little twines down at the bottom of it. That'll be all that's left of your cargo. Is you can't see the box anymore or the generator or whatever you're carrying, and it's just the slack line. Makes it extremely difficult, because if you had the shadow from that still there, it would be a lot easier. But mission failed. I'm sorry. You left the parking stand before completing the ground handling process. What? What just happened? And I got a hit to my reputation for that. I'm sorry. Let's try that one more time. That was fantastic. Is that mission even there anymore? Nope. That one's a little bit longer. Let's try a different area here. See, when you get into these wooded areas, it's kind of like, you know what, I'm just going to stay away from them. But if you come in closer and see something like this, where it's really bad, just stay away from it altogether. It's not even worth it. So we're going to try to come out to something a little bit different. Let's go back down to Australia because there's not a lot of trees down under. Let's see what we got here. One hook mission that splits into two, and of course it's going to be in the woods, deep in the mountains, with the Chinook or a 145. Alright, so we're over here for the mission, and it's coming to an airport. I kind of like it. That's definitely doable. And I'm not going to use the Chinook. I'm going to... Oh, now wait a minute. Did you switch? Yeah, they just switched positions. Okay. Pickup area, drop-off area. I let these screens load a little bit, and since we're using the same mapping information at this point, I kind of let this area do a little bit of a pre-cache before I get in. I really try not to just go through these menus too quickly. Whether it helps or not, I don't know. But I think it does. Yeah, right. There's always a flight mechanic in the back that's relaying information. There's the possibility, though, that one day what we're going to be able to do is, since they have a chat system built right into Microsoft Flight Sim 2024 right now, and this is a sandbox, we might get some stuff from third-party developers or even Asobo themselves or Hype Performance Group, where we can have multiple people in the same aircraft in the same mission, but using two different computers at the same, you know what I'm saying? Two different people in the same helicopter, I think is something that we have on the horizon for us with this sandbox, just because of the size and breadth of what they've put at their fingertips. The options right now are almost endless. Because if you'll notice on the controls here in the H125, if I come down, you have a hoist on. You have sling on. You know, these are options that you can use in the aircraft. These hat switches up here, if I had the call-outs on for these, you'll see that they operate like the hoist, and there's functionality to these buttons for doing these things manually, which we're also not able to do currently. But I have a feeling that pretty soon we will be able to do that.
Engine started preparing for takeoff. Please be ready. Copy that we're getting in position.
Even some of these cutscenes could use some work, you know, when they bring you into the building. I watched one of the ground crew come up to the belly of the Chinook and basically gave the side of the helicopter a thumbs up, like, you're good.
Kelly Hut needs to be refurbished, but there's no way to transport all the gear there except by air.
Wow, look at that flight plan. Okay. Probably not going to follow it too tightly. Spool her up. Put a landing light on. I'm real good at forgetting that. Wait for that torque rep to come back down. See if we can actually come out and see where our pickup spot is. A lot of the times these missions will have you kind of fly away and then come back to pick up the load. And I've noticed that if you just go right to the load right now, it doesn't really impact you that negatively. We'll get the taxi out there. There's the hold short.
Yankee Hotel Oscar Tango traffic SAR. Heli 241
Still can't see the pickup yet, but that'll get triggered soon.
runway 11.
The soft body physics in these ropes, pretty cool. You still can't see some segmenting in it if your graphics are set lower. But honestly, it doesn't hurt the immersion that bad. Play a little Pac-Man. Yeah, trim in the H-125 would be fantastic, but the variant that we're flying in Sim isn't even capable of trim. It does not have an SAS on board. Even though the flight controls themselves do say that there's trim possible, it's just kind of like they're borrowing the controls from one variant and putting them in another, sort of a thing. And they are aware that this does not have trim in it. Their reaction was almost to like laugh a little bit, like, why would it have trim? It's not the kind of helicopter that has trim. For a while, at the very beginning, I was using the same key bindings for trim as every other aircraft, and it felt like I was trimming this thing out. Everyone's like, how did you do it? And I'm showing them, and you know, nobody else could really trim it. And I think it was just either an anomaly or a combination of me really, really hoping it had trim and flukes. Because it would work very, very sporadically. So it wants me to go all the way to the end of the runway, and it's probably not going to show me the pickup yet. Nope. So I am going to have to traverse the end of the runway. And this is one of those things where I'm talking about, you know, I could have taken off for this mission a couple of times by now. Just the smaller things we need to kind of correct to make these a little bit more realistic. But man, are we close. And they want you to go all the way up to 4,500 feet before we get there. And as soon as I get that check mark on my altitude, I'm just going to immediately come right back down. Oh, got a little bit going on with my slack line there. She's straight out. This should be interesting. So the way I found to work with this is just kind of zoom this camera out as much as it'll go. And I'm just going to try to bring this thing into an approximate 30-foot hover over my target. And stay there as long as possible, as gently as possible. In the most stable hover you can possibly think of. Not easy. But if you come in low and slow, eventually this becomes a fingertip control maneuver and just kind of monitoring your collective. I'm watching the shadow of the slack line on the ground, and I'm just slowly inch forward into my circle until it says to hover in the same spot. I'll get a little green background over that. There we go, and now we got it, and I'm just going to try to keep this thing right over the top of my bag. I've got the properly secured message slowly bringing up the collective. Just going to let that line go taut. Even though I can't see the package, I can still see the tension on the line. Once I got tension, I'm just going to bring her straight up. If you use sim rate increase with this, you're probably going to wind up smacking the package into the bottom of the helicopter without even trying. It does not react well to that at all, so I recommend just flying through. Every once in a while, you're going to hit an invisible windmill, kind of entertaining at the same time. No package at the bottom, but we are on our way. And what I'm going to do is actually come into this and try to see if I can't just maintain a nice, steady speed on my way over. Try to grab something around the 60 to 70 knot mark. And then when I come to slow down to deliver the package, what I'm going to do is just make sure again that I do that pretty slowly. At this point, I'm going to bring up my ATC and make sure that we're communicating with them. Let's see here. We'll go with request flight following.
Multiple approaches, SAR Heli 241, Charlie Sierra Lima 4812 is type 1 miles north of Hotel.
As I touch that off screen on my second monitor, it does pause the simulator a little bit. But it's a good thing to keep an eye on. Start to put a little bit more speed just slowly into the aircraft. Drifting off my path a little bit, but I'm okay with it. Let's see if we can't get there without it. This same issue with the disappearing cargo was happening in the 2020 versions of Hype Performance Group's Action Pack 2, so I'm not really surprised that these proximity issues are still happening with the graphics. But the characteristics of the flight at this point are very realistic. If you start to get that cargo in a wobble, it will affect the flight of the aircraft. And you'll not only see it go back and forth, but you're going to feel it in your control system. Starting to get a little bit too much speed behind it. You can see that slack line going more than 45 degrees underneath the chopper, and I want to avoid that. I'm going to try to slow this down just a little bit. Bro, you're so funny, Krusty. Okay, so I've actually just described this before, but I have a history in radio. I went to school for broadcasting. Graduated in 2014, and I do work in the video content creation sort of thing right now as a technical director, video editor, and so forth. But I had a radio station, or radio channel, I should say, of my own, radio show. While I was in school for a full year, I was even the Chicago Golden Gloves ring announcer for fights there. I appreciate that compliment very much. Thank you. It's quite hysterical when I get those comments like that, because that's actually how I got into the industry in the first place. I was working as a customer service representative back in the day, and my customers over the phone were like, "Why aren't you on the radio?" And it would happen a couple of times a month, until all of a sudden I was really just considering like doing something about it. Like, all right, maybe there's something to it. And sure enough, went to school, graduated at the top of my class, and I've been doing it ever since. I wouldn't look back. Greatest decision besides joining the military. see, when I'm inside the aircraft too, I'm also getting a little bit of a bobble right now. You can see it jumping up and down, so I mean, I just get a better view from outside a lot of the times. You still manage what you need to do. All of my music is provided by Storyblocks. I am a subscriber to that website. I'm not paid by anybody actually to do this. I'm not monetized. I don't have any sponsors. I do this for the community and for the love of the hobby. I don't watch television. I don't believe in commercialism. You do you know what I mean? If you want to watch it, you watch it. If you don't, you don't. Thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. It's a choice I recognize. It's a longer flight, but at the same time, I think it's going to be worth it because the LZ that I've been given is very doable. We'll see what happens when we get there. If we can get there unscathed, they may have me dropping it into a building or something along those lines, but we're going to give it a whirl anyway. A whirly bird. I love the mist on the ground right over the rotor blades at this point. Just those low hanging sets of mist are just such a great addition to this scenery. And they look much better than they did in 2020. Much appreciated, Krusty. Much appreciated. Thank you. I could do this all day. And I have. Without question. Can't put the EFB up out here. We're good. So far, so good. I've got a really good clearance between my cargo and the ground. Slack line is not too close to my tail rotor, so I shouldn't have anything go horribly wrong here. This is looking good. And even though it's not necessarily search and rescue, it is stick time. And it is gorgeous. Look at this. So much time that people spend worrying about programming their flight plan into the flight management system and talking to real ATC, and I get it. It's a great thing. It's awesome, but oh man, these helicopters, I love it. As soon as they added these into the simulator, I became even more addicted to Flight Simulator than I was before. Take my feet off my rudders at this point, it does start to turn a little bit more than I'd like it to. I just got to add a little bit of back pressure there. And we see it came a little bit off. Should start to see my target here pretty soon. Looks like it's going to be a clearing over these few ridges. Definitely off the flight path. We're working it. Should be pointed right at it. Still coming in even lower and slower than I thought. I'm actually only pushing about maybe 47 knots right now. 48-ish. I'm going to start a very gentle descent at the same time. Start to bring this into our LZ. If we put our visual assistance on, we can actually get a better peek of where that's going to be. And just kind of use that information to go on. Starting to get a little bit too much of an angle on that slack line as I come down. Slow it down a little bit. My favorite helicopter in the simulator right now, though, is a third-party aircraft by Hype Performance Group. It is the H-160 by Airbus. Automatic takeoff and go around. Fully working autopilot. You can do some passenger transport missions with that aircraft in the base simulator because it has an iPad in the cockpit with those options available. Same thing exists with the H-145 variant. Some bugs in it as they get into 2024, but definitely a lot of fun to play with. Let's put these assistants back on real quick. Ooh, we're looking at a very sloped area. This doesn't necessarily look as though it did when I came into this. And I've noticed that when you're putting them down on a slope, they will just continuously slide down that slope. So you have to stay at your 30-foot hover and kind of not care that the box is sliding down the hill. Because trying to keep it steady on the hill, you wind up to be a little too far off the ground. That's another one of those things that we just kind of have to deal with at this point. Starting to come down a little bit quick. Put some power back into it just a little bit. I've got the drop area approach.
Requesting clearance to engage offload operation. Green deck permission to engage offload on.
Don't know where the drop's going to be just yet. Oh yeah, in the trees. Hello, governor. We are going to attempt just a nice descent into that hole. And I do mean attempt. I'm going to try to keep the oscillation off of that cargo as much as possible. Steady as she goes. I have a tendency to sometimes just drop the collective way too fast at this point, and trying to stay out of a vortex ring state right now is extremely difficult, especially when you're underweight. And when you get to the treetops, it gets real quick. And in this orientation, I can't really do too much to tell what is horizontal and what's not, other than the perspective shift. I might need to come back just a skosh. to lose focus. I've got the hover. I'm staying as steady as I possibly can into the treetops. I've got green, green, green. I've got the go-ahead for pattern entry unstowed. I'm up and I'm out. I would have to call that very successful. That looked good from here. That looked real good. I feel great about that. However, now that I don't have the cargo under the chopper anymore, I'm just going to make sure that my torque rating is around the 6 mark-ish. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and get back outside of the aircraft. And I'm going to use sim rate increase to go 2 times faster than reality. Again, it becomes quite difficult to fly at this point. But now that I don't have cargo underneath me, this becomes so much easier. And it's less time consuming to get that done. Krusty again. Nice. Great job. Pilot with a question mark. No, but I've got a lot of stick time in the simulator, and I have flown a Huey once in real life. I got to do a figure 8 in a Huey back in 1994 when I was in the service. So I have a very limited amount of real-world stick time, but the simulator stick time is extensive. Bring that back into real time, and we're going to quick reply to our ATC. Once that transmission is sent, I can go ahead and speed back up. That was by far one of my greatest cargo hook transports right there that I've ever done in sim. Glad that's being recorded. I wish I would have recorded the Chinook flight. I really regret not getting that one captured. See, and even though it took so long to get out there, using this flight or a sim rate increase just properly and sparingly is extremely beneficial. Let's go ahead and announce the position. Pattern entries coming in. And even though I don't necessarily need to fly the pattern at this point, I could probably just land. I want to get those points as high up as I possibly can, so I'm going all the way through. Love it. This will never ever get old. Anywhere on the planet, just hop in the old chopper and go for a ride. Yeah, I can never get enough of this. And now that they put missions into the base simulator, it's game on. I'm definitely following a much tighter pattern than they would have. But we're coming in. Let's double check our EFB real quick to make sure we're coming into the right runway, though. We're looking at 11. That should be right. We're coming around on final. We can announce that. We can get rid of the old EFB and come out of that hover that we wound up in. Let's bring this puppy down. So, you know, if there was cargo on that hook, that impact on my tail rudder would have really negatively impacted the mission. But now that that's gone and that part of the mission is behind us, It's a little bit more forgiving on the aircraft, and I'm not mad. There is the approach. Our hold short is lit up nice and purty. I'd also like to see them make it more accurate where we have to manage this slack line more than we do right now. They're not worried about how you're putting it down on the ground or how you lift it off. It's actually an extremely important process to make sure that you're not getting tangled up in it. Ooh, little sink at the end there. But there's some things that they could do to make it a little bit more realistic, but I mean, come on. We're not even a month in. I just dropped a piece of cargo off the top of a mountain with an H-125. It has become meaningful. I mean, you could use your imagination when you had the third-party plugins like that Hype Performance Group Action Pack, which I played a lot. But you were really kind of limited, you know. That was the only company doing it. What's great though is those aircraft were a pleasure to fly. They still are. I still have them in this version. I keep them out of my community folder while I'm also doing this. So right now my community folder, even though I have third-party aircraft, my community folder at this point in time is empty. And I do that because of things going on in the background that cause issues with third-party conflicts. So, yeah. What if I want to fly something that I have bought? Before I fly that mission, I'll come out of the simulator, dump it into my community folder and whatever else I need. And then up I go. Right. Yes, they would. I wouldn't have a job either. There was one rescue mission that I did in the mountains, and a real-world HEMS pilot was watching the stream, and he said that he would have lost his job if he had tried to do something like that. Which was a compliment in and of itself, but yeah, there's a lot that is just, you know, gamified. Like pulling the rotor brake while you're still fully cranked. Probably going to cost you some repairs. Maybe. But either way. Another mission in the books. I love to laugh out loud and cry. It's good. Success. If this isn't an S rating, I'm retiring. What? Ensure cargo integrity was a 0%. I don't know what to say at this point. I might just cry a little bit. That's hard. That's hard to take. I'm not gonna lie. That looked pretty close to perfect from my point of view. I just don't know. you know, some of these missions are like great profit margins, but with that, the Pilatus just now, I'll avoid it for now. Have you seen the tornado yet? I appreciate your score of 100 out of 100. I agree completely. Have you come across any of these scientific research missions just yet? I could show you a real fun one. In the Diamond VA-62. Back at the fixed wing side of things, however, I haven't bought a plane or a helicopter in 2024 yet, but I have certainly made my fair share of purchases while it was 2020. Hype performance groups, H-145, the H-160, Huey, Chinook. Yeah, quite a few. There's a list. So this is a mission to study tornadoes. What's your bug in the tornado mission? I had somebody else talk about bugs in there where it didn't let them finish the mission, but I've actually completed 2 at this point. This would be number 3. And there's always that chance that I experience that bug that you're having this time around too. Are you flying 2024 yet, Keith? Oh, for my company? Yes, sir. However, since I bought the aircraft, we had a little bit of run-in with the insurance company. So what happened there is I went dead broke in 3 days after owning the aircraft, and the insurance was still being charged to my airline while not even in the simulator. They brought me $1 million in the hole, and since then I have started over. And at this point, what I've done instead, I've taken a different path based on prior experience, and right now I'm getting very close to having all of the certifications done on both sides, helicopters and fixed wing. And I'm running a lot of the fixed wing missions to make money. And right now I have 3 different airlines in my company. I have cargo, VIP, as well as search and rescue. So you get a crash like to desktop after you complete the tornado mission. Okay, so that's something that have you ever reinstalled your simulator from scratch? Or are you working off of your original download? Yeah, it's actually happened to quite a few people, and I'm not mad about it. It taught me a couple of very valuable lessons. Don't go too fast. Earn the money first. Quell the excitement and go with it. Yeah, earn the money first. Like right now I'm only back up to almost 300,000. Okay, so Krusty, if you're on the original download, and this was actually mentioned in one of Microsoft Flight Simulator's dev mode live streams after the launch, where they said that people who were downloading originally were actually getting some corrupt data from Microsoft with their download. So they've put out the recommendation to uninstall your 2024 version completely and try a brand new installation. And they have since fixed the bugs that were being shipped out, especially this late in the game, because even after their last patch, it seems like some of those stuck around. So I actually have had to reinstall my simulator twice. So has our good friend Avery, right? Last night we did a free flight, and this gentleman and I, Kane 5, number 5400, were able to do our first fly-in together since he's downloaded the simulator, or since we've downloaded the simulator. Almost a month later, right? So he not only had to reinstall the simulator, but he actually had issues with the driver systems in his motherboard and graphics card and all of it. He went into his BIOS, did a whole bunch of stuff to get it working. I've done the same thing. I'm using a DLSS swapper at the same time. If you look through the history in my videos, you'll see some of this information out there within those videos. But a DLSS swapper is basically going to give you the most recent version of the DLSS files. And you kind of have to make sure that your simulator is referencing the best version of the DLSS file. Then things start to smooth out. You can get even more smooth if you go about Air Boss Man's tips, where you kind of mess with that config file, I think it is, where you change the value of one number, resave that file in like a notepad, and then it's game on. All right, because right now, the way my sim is set up, if I go into my settings, I'm running DLSS Super Res at performance. All right, in a 4K configuration. My global render quality right now is listed as such. Off-screen terrain pre-caching is ultra, but everything else pretty much below that while I stream is set to high. I've got the motion blur to medium. You can do whatever you want with that. I'm not a huge fan of motion blur, so I keep that at medium. Same thing with the glass cockpit refresh rate. Keep that at medium. The sea traffic and fauna I have set to ultra because I really enjoy that portion of the simulator. I have the road traffic to low because it's not a valuable asset to my experience in the simulator, so I just kind of pick and choose what I want to do with it. And I'm on a 2080 Ti graphics card. I'm getting phenomenal results with all of those trips. It's absolutely amazing. The difference is astonishing. It's my pleasure to help. So here, let's do this. If you guys have already seen this mission, let's go back into main menu here. Let's go back into the career mode, and I'll show you exactly what I got working and what I've unlocked and where I'm standing right now. 228,530 credits. 16 certifications have been passed. I really want to unlock these two. The jet airline transport and the heavy airline, because those are going to earn buku bucks. Specializations, these are things that you just kind of do along the way. This hasn't really opened up all that much just yet. I'm really curious to try this airline firefighting extended attack. That should also be something that's available on the rotorcraft side of things, because we do have the Ericsson Sky Crane. But if you'll notice, that isn't even an option here, so we have the ability to further career mode for helicopters by adding that in, because you can put a tanker underneath a Ericsson and put a hose underneath it and scoop water out of a pool, but we don't see that listed as an option, so there's even room for expansion there. Search and Rescue Hoist was a little bit hard to get a hold of, but we got it. This one was probably the hardest, though. Definitely. I don't know. It was either that or the aerial construction. Trying to get this S rating for the SCORE helicopter cargo transport mission with an S. I didn't think that was going to be a thing that I would ever accomplish. I mean, it was a fluke, because I did crash during that mission when I did get the S. But I got it. I got proof. It happened. It was fun too. But yeah, that's pretty much where my airline specializations and certifications sit right now in my companies. I have a few of them: VIP, cargo, and search and rescue, but no aircrafts for these yet. And here's the thing about this. If you go in and say, I want to start my search and rescue. Okay, so it says no aircraft purchased yet for this company, so you can buy an aircraft. You can come in, you can get used aircraft, but your price range on these is significant. All right, so we're only talking about 101,360 credits. I have the money to do that. I also have the money to start an insurance policy. However, if I were to come back in and try again to go about the mindset of earning money quickly, my first aircraft is not going to be a rotorcraft at all. My first rotorcraft is going to be in this VIP section right here, because this makes money, six-figure money. When you own your own companies, each mission you're getting six-figure incomes. And I can afford this aircraft, but that's not the mission I want to be running my VIP transports in. I want the Vision Jet. All right, I want that high-end payday at the end of this, so I'm just biding my time until I have enough coin to purchase a Vision Jet. So in order to do that, I kind of have to come back out and see that in the specializations for airplanes, I do have the charter service private. And I have all of these available now, right? The level 16, instrument rating, everything is checked off in green for that. But when you go charter service VIP, I only need one more mission to unlock these. And at that point, it's still not offering me a Vision Jet as an airline, right? It's not a compatible aircraft yet. So I'm not sure exactly what I need to do to get that done, unless maybe it pops up. Like if the next mission I fly a charter service in is in a Vision Jet, which is an option a lot of the times, I have a feeling that it's going to wind up adding that in as a available aircraft, right? So that's the path that I'm choosing to go about this, because I think the biggest thing is having the money, right? And then you can actually have multiple companies running, and this is all speculation right now because I've only heard this, but apparently you can run these airlines in the background using like AI. And all you have to do is really kind of keep up with your insurance. But again, you have to have the coin to pay the insurance. So I'm gonna put a couple million on that board before I even buy that Vision Jet. And I've got a long way to go, but I'm in it for the ride. And you'll see here that I don't see any VIP missions. Every once in a blue moon, when you zoom in closer and just let it kind of rest for a while and trigger some things, you'll see one pop up. And here we go, right here, Vision Jets. See, this is in a Beechcraft Baron. This one here is in the DHC-2. Got a couple more up here. We're in North America right now. Here's the Vision Jet, right? Only 4,770 credits, 2-hour mission, but that is the path that I would go down next. Without a question. Because that's the one mission I need to unlock more money. And that's what I honestly believe it is all about at this point. And this is, again, one of those that you can sparingly use the sim rate increase, decrease with, as long as you're really good at anticipating where things are going to happen in the mission. If you're not so good at anticipating that, don't use it. Because it'll not only cause issues with your not being able to earn the potential, but the aircraft itself will start to kind of freak out a little bit. So just play it safe and maybe put it on autopilot, turn the volume up on the PC while you go do something else, and that thing flies in the background. And if anything comes up, you can come back over to the PC and be like, all right, correct it real quick and get back to what you were doing. Multitask if you can. All right? It's only 92 miles. We're going a couple hundred knots. It's not going to take that long. And it's money. It's more money than you can make in any other way in sim right now. And it's not a bad aircraft to fly. It's actually kind of nice. See, and again, when I first load into this, you can see this stuttery graphic happening. This, I believe, will also be fixed once we're given the ability to download the aircraft that we fly on a regular basis. You have one Vision Jet and tried to buy another, but it will not let me buy the second, even though you have enough money for it. See, the graphics right now are chunky funky. Just stuttery. A lot of stutter. Oh, we got floating airplanes. I like it. Lots of graphics issues as we load into this. I don't have a lot of confidence in this mission right now. Interesting. So you have the cash, but it's not letting you. Very interesting. But you're earning that coin in the meantime, right? Just more and more money in the bank. And that's what I would continue to do until the bug fixes are gone. And then you're just a billionaire. Happy Wright Brothers Day, everyone. Thank you, Helly Phil, for coming back. And yes, sir, happy Wright Brothers Day to everyone. Welcome back. Love it. Good to see him again, my man. We were able to get a couple of people on board with us last night in a free flight. I don't know if you remember who Avloch Emery's is, but his gamer tag right there, KNV number 5400, is Avery Emery. And he was in sim last night doing a free flight with us down in South America. He made it in, finally. Super cool to see him out there flying around, man. He was whipping it around in his chopper, and he's actually flying VR. So for him to be back in there, even with VR, is an achievement for him. You make the most money now flying cargo sling line missions, 60 to 150K per mission, and it's only 5 minutes per flight. 5 minutes. And you're in the Sky Crane when you're doing that, Keith? Yeah, Ben, I'm getting a lot of lag right now as I load into the aircraft. I haven't flown one of these yet today, and sometimes when we do that, these cockpits take quite a bit of while to generate. Even the way the screens load up is pretty slow at that point. You can see the no FMS position at this point. And you're doing that in the 125, Keith. No kidding. 150K per mission. But that's, again, an aircraft that you own in your company. Which insurance did you purchase? Yeah, this thing is very stuttery. Just going in and out of the aircraft the whole 9 yards. Try to cash in as much of this airplane as we possibly can before we even go anywhere. We're also going to come down and do the initial fuel here. We'll do the FOB sync. Yeah, the cheapest insurance I think would be the only way to fly at this point. I had quite the bad experience with the premium side of things, even though it sounded like a good idea at the time, it was not. We're going to accept the initialization. Good deal. SOS, same thing. Okay, cheaper insurance. Okay, all right. And 150K per mission's a pretty good take. Parking brake is set. We can release that. We should be able to get this bird at least taxiing. Check all of our flight surfaces, make sure we got things working. I haven't been checking any of my key bindings lately because I've noticed that that has pretty well corrected itself for the most part. Since I've got each individual aircraft its own key binding that is named specifically in each one of those categories. You know how it gives you the keyboard, the throttle, and your joystick, and then below that it gives you 3 different options for like the specific, the helicopter, and I forget what the third one is, but I have names and saved specific key bindings for each aircraft. Wait a minute, it's like a glitch. And the autopilot runs up money even if you don't fly, they say. Yeah, I mean, you can put it on autopilot and just let it go. Absolutely, I've done it. I'll put it on autopilot and then do the sim rate increase. Once it's on autopilot and you're on a good flight path, you can just let it sit there and cruise. All right, we can get into our cockpit here. I really haven't played too much with this. Oh, wow, drunk driver. But, you know, you can come up and get an altitude set in here. Autopilot works. You do come across flight failures, though, engine failures, things like that every once in a while. So if that happens while you're in the air, your mission could end a way that you didn't want it to. That has happened to me before. I've had missions diverted where you actually have a patient in the back and you're doing a medevac, and all of a sudden there's an emergency and you got to turn around and divert to a different airport. And if you don't, mission failed, kind of a thing, you know. Glider. Interesting. I haven't tried that side of it yet either. A lot of the times a flight plan isn't even loaded in. Double check to make sure that we got some information in here. It doesn't look like we do. More like just a direct path. Turn that heading bug around. Yeah, and I've heard a lot of people say that, you know, these glitches that we're finding on the ground, once you get in the air, they go away, and that is absolutely the case a lot of the time. SOS Death Pilot says, for your other planes that have a sim flying for you. Interesting. Okay. So that's the AI side of things, just running those missions for you?
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of our onboard staff, we would like to welcome you on board flight FCW 8411 bound for Hereford. Our flight time will be 17 minutes. We expect an on-time departure, and we're currently ready for takeoff. I will keep you informed of any key updates as we go through the flight. Thank you. Kilo Mike Golf Juliet, traffic SAR, Heli 241 Foxtrot, Charlie Whiskey 8, 411, taking off runway, for departure to the south.
The amount of time it's taken to get in and out of the cockpit is a little bit disconcerting, but we're going to go with it. I've also seen quite a few of these aircrafts don't have any indents on the airspeed indicator, and you just kind of got to guess with it. Might want to even try to stay on the runway. It is recommended. The controls are even sticky at this point with the rudder control. But we're up, and of course now that we are up, it does smooth out pretty good. Keeping up with ATC and all of those mission steps is something that I find myself losing track of when I do stream, just because there's a little bit more going on.
SAR Heli 241 Foxtrot, Charlie Whiskey 8411 approach. Walk 222 tree.
EFB is nowhere near our airplane. This is something else that I'd like to see them try to work on a little bit. When you're coming in between these missions, it does remember the place you were in last.
SAR Heli 241 Foxtrot, Charlie Whiskey 8411, did you copy?
Squawk 222 tree SAR, Heli 241 Foxtrot, Charlie Whiskey 8411.
SAR Heli 241 Foxtrot, Charlie Whiskey 8411, radar contact tree miles north of Kilo Mike Golf Juliet, 2,200 feet, altimeter 29er. 9er 2. SAR Heli
It's not a bad airplane.
Foxtrot, Charlie Whiskey 8411, please acknowledge.
Roger SAR, Heli 241 Foxtrot, Charlie Whiskey 8411.
Very interesting. Losing money when they fly for you because they say take a break. The autopilot is not flying the other plane and costing you money. See, and that's just something else that I'm going to wait for. In the meantime, I'm just going to choose a single career path as a freelancer. I'm not buying an aircraft yet. I'm going to be baller by the time I get there.
Approach SAR, Heli 241 Foxtrot, Charlie Whiskey 8411.
Because I know that I can fly these missions anytime, any day, and make money without losing it while those problems are still being fixed. That is absolutely how I'm going to go about it, and honestly, it doesn't bother me if it's going to take a really long time.
Walk 222 trees.
Because even though I'm in a Vision jet right now, and this is a search and rescue helicopters channel, I mean, this is the path that I think, just by an opinion, is a pretty efficient way to go about it at this stage of the simulator.
SAR Heli 241 Foxtrot, Charlie Whiskey 8411, read back correct. Radar contact 6,400 feet, altimeter 29er. 9er 2 turn, right heading 2 tree 5.
It's got me coming up to 8,000.
Climb and maintain 8,000 feet.
Turn right heading 2 tree 5 resume. Own navigation climb and maintain 8,000 foot SAR.
And once we get through some of these ATC transmissions and I get up to a cruising altitude, I'm going to continue to hand fly it, but I will attempt to use the sim rate increase, sim rate decrease once we get there and just manage that very carefully. Just to make sure the mission goes a little bit quicker. I mean, it's almost 80 miles. We're going at a pretty good clip, but I could be getting this done so much faster.
132, 6 SAR Heli 241 Foxtrot, Charlie Whiskey 8411.
And it gives you the option to do the Alt-N at this point to skip the descent. I mean, you could do that if you want to, but it's more XP points if you don't. And honestly, how can you not just sit back and enjoy a little bit of scenery while you get there? Inform the passengers that we're a cruise. Turn those visual assistants off once we get a nice visual reference downrange.
We are currently cruising at an altitude of 8,000 feet at an airspeed of 150 knots. It's 10:37 a.m. and our
I do like to keep these closed captionings of the ATCs up on the bottom for any of my viewers that are hearing impaired or any sort of difficulties of that matter. I'm an inclusive individual.
sit back, relax, and enjoy the rest of the flight. SAR Heli 241 Foxtrot, Charlie Whiskey 8411.
So now it does say that I'm above my altitude. I am over the altitude by quite a bit. So what I'm going to do is literally just set an Alt hold. Turn the autopilot on once I get a heading bug in there. Let's see if navigation is going to work. We'll put it on autopilot. It seems to be coming into the pattern. And now I'm just going to do a single sim rate increase. So now I'm 2 times normal speed. And I'm just keeping an eye on those mission steps. It took me it took a lot of thought, right? Like, I'm just gonna bank money, and I really do think it's the only way to fly at this point. Doesn't seem to be holding a or is it? Yeah, it is. We got an alt hold. We're good. I might even be able to throw the heading bug on there because it doesn't look like I'm close enough to the actual flight path. We're close, but let's move the heading a little over to the left. And I'm still at 2 times sim speed right now, so all of this is happening twice as fast as it should be. I do have a takeoff thrust still engaged, so I'm just going to back off that throttle just a little bit.
SAR Heli 241 Foxtrot, Charlie Whiskey 8411. Please expedite your descent.
Now we're starting to get into our flight plan, and that navigation mode should be going FMS. We get the green blinking light there, and we're good to go. So now I'm going to go ahead and put a descent in. We're going to go to 8,000. I'm going to kick this back to real time. While I do this, I'm getting a call from ATC. A handoff is coming through. So we're going to go ahead and acknowledge that. And while we do that, let's get to that 8,000 foot mark.
New York Center SAR Heli 241 Foxtrot, Charlie Whiskey
I'm going to do a vertical speed and come down. We'll do something like 400 per. Make sure our throttle comes back even more as we descend this. And we'll kick that nose forward just a bit, keep that speed up. And now I'm going to do another sim rate increase while we're clear of ATC. Speed's dropping a little bit. It does get a little bumpy every once in a while. If it gets too bumpy, I will come out of sim rate increase immediately. We should be coming up to that 8,000 foot mark right there. Our mission step says descend to 8,000 feet, and we'll see that turn green here in just a minute. I do have that off on another screen though right now. We are 100% on our flight path. I'm going to move my heading bug to line up. There's our 8,000 foot. And if you'll see here, it still says we are not at 8,000 feet. It has not made that go green. So I'm going to pull up my ATC. Something is going wrong. I need to take the autopilot off immediately. Not sure what it was, but it actually started glitching a little bit right there. So I'm just going to go ahead and then re-engage. But we're going to come in and I'm just going to try to trigger this. So I'm going to request a vector to the next waypoint.
New York Center SAR, Heli 241 Foxtrot, Charlie Whiskey 8411 requesting vector to the next waypoint. SAR Heli 241 Foxtrot, Charlie Whiskey 8411 turn left heading 2.
And I'm not going to worry about it. Let's get an idea of just how far out we are. Oh, there we go. And all of a sudden we need to accept that, and we're sort of getting more interaction with mission steps, but descending to 8,000 still remains a requirement. So let's see if we actually do a altitude decrease. Let's just do this by 1,000 feet. We'll prep for it and see if they give us permission. Does say descend, so I could put that vertical speed on there. Let's kick that boy down. Pressure recalibration sometimes solves the issue. Pressure recal. Is that a button mapping issue here, or can I do that in my control panel here somewhere? Accept that ATC instruction. Flight management system is on. Oh, that's a lot. Hold on. Try to press the comma button. Ooh, I don't know if I want to do that. I haven't checked my mapping yet, but we will press the comma button. There we go. We've done it. Because I go through my button mapping, and I tend to change things up a bit. A lot of what they send me by default, I remove. So whether or not that's still an option is questionable. But again, I'm just going to sim rate increase this guy a little bit. And I've heard a lot of people say that there's an issue using increase and decrease as well, but I'm doing it. I'm going to make it to the end of the mission no matter what. Eventually, I'm going to descend beyond 7,000. Only 40 nautical miles away. Moving right along. Let's see if I can push one more notch of sim rate increase. As soon as I get that ATC call, we're in. If you press the sim rate decrease 4 times, or as far down as you can go, I should say, and then 4 times back up, you're back into real time. I still think that having something visibly displayed on the screen like the communications or mission steps are will be really important. Yeah, the barrel bug. Yeah. And why they changed the mapping on the barometer too is also something pretty fun. Like, it's been there for how long? We'll put a little bit more into this. Bring it down one more time. Let's start a little bit of a descent a little bit early. We're getting that there we go. We're informing about a descent. I'm going to come back into real time here. Let's go with the vertical speed. Let's come down. Let's set that to 3,500. Tune the approach. Request flight following, even though it does say to contact arrival. And that's happening at the same time. Good deal. We get a lot of this where 2 different things with ATC and mission steps overlap. Our EFB says that we're supposed to be coming into runway 31. So what I'm going to want to do is actually come to the left of this final right now. Good eye right there. They did say the 2992. I have all my volumes down, and watching these things scroll by right now is not working out too well. 12 nautical miles away. I actually think I have still 1 notch of sim rate increase on.
Roger, SAR, Heli 241 Foxtrot, Charlie Whiskey 8411.
Everything is working pretty good though. That is the final. We're going to go back to a heading bug. And we're going to push this a little bit over here. And we're going to try to slow this puppy down. I am not a fan of landing this aircraft. I'm going to give everybody a little bit of a heads up right now. This could be entertaining. I'm getting better at it. I'm trying to anyway. At this point with the ATC, it's kind of like, well, which option do you choose? Because the press enter to contact arrival airport and announce position via ATC is just staying greened out. It's not going anywhere. So if I'm coming into 31. This guy over to the right a little bit more. Starting to get some much slower speeds. I might just turn autopilot off completely and hand fly from here on out. Oh, I did not want to bring up the camera options. Button pusher. And you'll also notice that I like to kind of pop between the outside view and the inside view quite a bit. Better cinematics for the viewers. Easier for me sometimes. Especially when I get really close to the runway and I just kind of want to see that shadow come closer to the bottom of the aircraft. Get that rate of descent where it needs to be. And in that process, I generally either float or do a go-around. And sometimes I'll even put it down just like a brick. Are we putting this thing down on a grass strip right now? Alright, how many people out there in a Vision jet land on a grass strip? Or is this it right here? Where is it? There we go. All right, we got some asphalt. All right, let's come in and see where our speed's at before we drop out of the sky. I'm going to actually bring my ATC off this screen right now so I can see it, but it's not in my way. Wow, I like doing that today. That's good stuff. Thanks, Windows. I think we should be good enough to put landing gear down at $140. We're in the white. Gear are coming down. We're at 140. Okay. I do live in a 2D world too. I don't use any IR tracking or VR glasses. Personally, I think trying to stream with all of that would be a little much. I want to be able to touch my keyboard and mouse and kind of work things out, so. I have a feeling I'm going to be overspeeding this. I have one flap, or one notch of flaps down already. We're getting that speed down all right. It's coming down over a little bit of a hill here. Let's start that turn a little early. Let's turn these visual assistants off. I have visual on the airport, and now it's time to screw up a landing. Put another notch of flaps in there just because she said so. Hold up. Hold up. I don't know. This actually looks like a pretty decent approach right here. I'm probably speaking way too soon. I didn't go outside of the cockpit that time, but I'm on the runway. Kinda. I'm down. Everybody lived through it. We didn't kill anybody. This time. Not pretty. Not pretty. And the graphics back again, okay? So we've reached the ground again, and here we go with the stuttery graphics. So again, this is that same thing happening with so many different aircraft where it's smooth, smooth, smooth. And you get back into just chunk. Come on, you know you want to get there. I have full throttle on right now. I don't know about butter. That's some chunky butter right there, Keith. That's some chunky butter. That's like the cottage cheese is what I'm talking about. That was not butter. Neither are these graphics. Oh, that's hard to look at, actually. And it's not giving me the skip to hold short either. It is starting to cache, though. It's starting to smooth out a little bit. It's all about patience, Krusty. That's really what it boils down to, right? I'm on a Wi-Fi network, and I kind of understand what goes on with downloading while I'm streaming, and, you know, there's some things at play here. I did already announce the taxi to parking. I don't see a parking spot. It does say skip to shutdown, and since it's not giving me anything else, curled milk chops, King Cobra, yes sir. I love it. And I'm even gonna do the Control Shift E to shut it down because I'm not too proud. These do take quite a while to spool down though. Look at the character switch when you're outside. The character at the bottom of the screen right now. Versus, I'm going to try to do a slow descent with the camera here before this just turns off. Oh, their head just kind of pops into view. Whoop. Love it. These graphics are just awesome, though. As I bring in a Vision Jet onto a grass parking spot. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That camera, though. What's going on, everybody? Oh, here's this could be a lot of the problem. I took off with my safety tag still in. That might have something to do with it. What do you think? I love the beards. Nicely done, gentlemen. We got some great stubble on this guy's head over here. He just got to that point, was like, you know what? I'm shaving it, babe. I'm just shaving it. And even though we have done an engine shutoff, this thing is still not shutting down. So let me try to Control E to turn it on. And another Control Shift E to turn it off. I'll try to announce another taxi to parking, and I'm going to try to trigger this any way I can to realize that, hey, this mission's done. If I just did all of that for nothing, that's one of my favorite landings ever. I can't even hear if my engines are still going. Do we have any heat bloom coming off? Nope, that looks to be pretty well done. I can get out of the aircraft. There we go. Trigger it any way you can. Patience is a virtue and it pays off almost every time. Let's see what we made. The turbine spin for an excessive amount of time. 38% for airline procedures. I will take the 99% of respect for aircraft condition, though. I'm not mad about that, even with that rough landing. Passenger satisfaction was only 66%. I guess my customer service skills could use a little work. And not a lot of coin for that one either. However, again, the reason we did that is just to unlock more things down the pipeline. At the 115 level, pretty happy with it. So now what we should have is Charter VIP. Mission accomplished as far as I'm concerned. But do we have the Vision Jet in the lineup? That was one of our questions. Still not available. Very interesting. I'm curious if we're going back into the same issue that we were talking about earlier, where even if you had purchased one, a second one wasn't available, right? So, like, as I progress through these, maybe if I come out of it all the way and I wake up tomorrow and come back in, and it might be there. There's even a chance that we have more search and rescues on the planet right now. Who knows? Or we just needed to go through this screen first. So now that we have the Charter VIP service, I'm going to do what I like to do at this point, possibly create a thumbnail out of this guy right here. We're going to save that in this little snipping tool, throw it off to the side. Multitask, you know? Got to keep it real. There's a VIP mission going off. I do see the original search and rescue out in the harbor. Quite a few more VIP missions showing up across the board. Only 5,200, 4,700. But again, this is all without owning an aircraft. I haven't bought a plane yet. I'm not mad about it. No other search and rescue missions have become available after that. However, I think another day is going to provide another tale. And I am not mad about it. The one thing I say is every single time, this is an absolute blast. I sincerely appreciate each and every one of you for being here. I don't even know how long we've been streaming this time, but if you've been following the channel for a while, you know that at some of these streams, if anything crashes to desktop or even full systems freezes, but we're pushing like 2.5 hours at this point with a solid stream. Pretty decent experience. Had some great feedback from you guys. Really enjoyed today's flight. Thanks again for being here. This has been another one. We have been search and rescue finding. It isn't quite fixed yet, but I am in fort. And as I like to say, it's been a blast. It's been a ball. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it. That's all. We'll see you in the next one.